Welcome to the PI show. My name's Harry Nowicki and I'm with Martin Smith today. We're talking about personal injuries and in particular injuries that arise out of transport accidents. Welcome, Martin.
Evening.
Martin's been involved with the TAC legislation since 1986 when it first came into
Since its
effect.
inception, yep.
Yeah. And we've had some very weird and wonderful scenarios and situations about people who are injured in transport accidents. And last week we discussed some of them. We've got some queries and responses, and we're just going to deal with just the variety of situations that arise with transport accidents. One thing in the Transport Accident Act, it's 300 pages.
Yes.
I think it's got 200 sections.
About that.
Some of the injury lawyers just read it from cover to cover just for relaxation. And one of the sort of interesting scenarios is people who come from overseas to visit family in Victoria. They then might hire a car, be a passenger in a car. There's a transport accident.
Yes.
And they're injured. So prima facie, they're covered in Victoria.
Yes, transport accident, yes.
What happens when the visa runs out, they're here for a period of 3 months. 3 months, they've got to go back to India, Singapore, Italy, Ireland. What happens to them then?
I think the visa extension that's an issue in itself, but if somebody's obviously in an intensive care or repatriation hospital, they don't take them straight out of hospital. But at some stage, they have to be repatriated back to their country.
Do they lose their rights, or what happens?
They have ongoing entitlements if they have got a common law claim. However, the Section 60 benefits, which we call our medical and like expenses, they literally stop when they hop on a plane and leave Australia. The reason being that the Section 60 benefits are covering people for medical expenses in Australia. They may have ongoing entitlements to claim their medical expenses. Let's say they went back to Germany or Italy. They may be able to claim their medical expenses and their loss of wages if they have what's called a common law entitlement.
So if they're injured in Victoria, they're visiting relatives, friends, and then they leave and, they're still suffering the effects of the injury. They're getting treatment overseas. But in effect, what you're saying is that those people then, if they're not at fault, if they sue at common law,
yes,
they get, in effect, a lump sum damages, which
yes,
includes their medical treatment.
Their past medical expenses out of Australia. So in other words, they've received treatment. Let's use the example which you and I did, a lady in Italy. We settled her past medical expenses in euros. We estimated what her future medical expenses would be, and we also claimed her loss of income.
Yep. So she was I think a primary school teacher. Yeah. She was on the back of a motorcycle, but it was hit by a car. It wasn't her fault.
Correct.
I think she had some quite nasty injuries, but left Victoria. And she put in a claim. Yes. Very important.
Lodged the claim, yes.
And then consulted a lawyer.
Yes.
And then ultimately her matter was resolved at common law. It wasn't her fault, common law, and she got paid for her future medical treatment in Italy. So correct, if she had ongoing problems in Italy, they were sort of covered by a settlement.
That's correct.
So, but once you leave Australia, TAC will not pay for any medical treatment.
No. They will pay as part of a settlement, but they will not pay the ongoing week by week for your medical treatment, as would happen if you were a resident in Australia.
Yeah, so, but if you leave Victoria and get treatment elsewhere,
yes,
you're covered, but if you leave Australia, if the accident's your fault and you leave Australia, that's it, in effect. So you lose your benefits.
There are such things as travel insurance, of course. There are such things as you can insure for those things, and you might have a free medical treatment in some of those countries. Some people have free medical treatment when they turn.
Your credit card might cover
right,
that situation as well. Then people who travel interstate, also in a Victorian registered car, they're covered. I think we had the case of the woman on the Greyhound bus.
Yes.
wanted to go to Queensland for a holiday. Was I think in the toilet. Just the bus went over a bump, and she injured her hand.
Yes.
She's covered under TAC.
Yes, she's obviously in a Victorian vehicle. She's a resident of Victoria. Sure, she's out of state at the time, but it's directly arising from the driving of a motor vehicle. That means it's a transport accident, and she's an injured person. She should be covered.
So she's covered, and if it's not her fault, then she can sue.
If she gets through the serious injury gateway, which we're not, for an injury to her hand may or may not be, but she certainly gets. Yeah, she gets her medical expenses paid.
If she was a concert pianist,
yes,
and her career as a concert pianist was decimated, finished, she could probably get through the gateway.
Correct.
If she's not a concert pianist,
the consequences may not be enough to get a serious injury.
Okay. And then some unusual situations involving people who are engaged in what might be called illegal activity.
Yes.
They're in a car. I think a case in Canberra went to the High Court where there's a group of them stole a car.
Yes.
Robbed the bank.
Yes.
As they were fleeing the scene of the crime, the car lost control, and I think the passengers were injured.
Yes.
And the question was whether they could claim, in effect, something like TAC compensation at common law. It went to the High Court. What did the High Court say?
My understanding of that case is that there was a defence at common law to say illegality. If you're involved in an illegal, high-level crime, I wouldn't have thought driving unlicensed or anything at the low level of the market, but certainly bank robbery or doing some other heinous crimes, there's no compensation payable.
So it's a matter of
public policy.
Public policy. They just the court said no claim, and I might come back to afterwards about drug dealing and involving motor car accidents as well.
Okay.
That's all we've got time for. We'll go to a short break and be back after the break.